Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Guy, can you hear me good?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
we finally have a good connection.
Yeah, actually, I think I should probably. So, I think you'll be able to hear my voice better. Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, cool. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. In my studio, just getting by today.
Aren't we all at the moment? Welcome. How was your day?
Thank you. Huh?
How was your day?
It's all right. I mean, the world's very heavy right now. I'm just in my studio. I've been working today, trying to do the best I can.
All right.
How are you?
Good. Good. Got up this morning. We had a 10 o'clock conversation. It was good, but the reception wasn't good, which is always a problem. Not always, but it always causes a problem. Then
Yeah.
I had to go to Connecticut to get some material for a job that we're doing.
Oh, what job? I love your work so much, by the way. I was like,
Thank you very much.
I
We're
would,
working
I
on,
mean, if I could have a dining room table, it would be one of yours if I had a dining room.
we got time. We're doing 42 screens for PayPal.
Oh, damn.
So we needed to sandblast the metal. So I had to go and get more sandblasting media.
Right.
So, and that was
Like,
in, I'm sorry?
something like the black sand, something like that.
Yes, it is. It's something like that. But it's something that's very coarse. And it was like 50 miles away in Connecticut.
Damn.
But you got to get it done.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Yep, got to get it done. All right, so we're going to start with a couple of questions before we begin the conversation.
All right. Hit me.
Do you have an overused phrase or word?
Oh, I feel like I have a few. In terms of art, probably like juicy. I think I
Okay.
say that far too often. Like I'll be like, oh, like that's really juicy. Like that
So,
piece, that surface. Like I think I use that like way more than it even applies to the amount
uh,
that I use.
so what makes a piece juicy?
It can be like that's what I mean. I overuse it. I think it so many things can be juicy in so many ways. Surfaces can be super juicy. Colors can be super juicy.
So
A
it's a
form,
compliment.
huh?
It's a compliment.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's a total compliment. And the other would just be like fuck. So I say that way too much. Usually in a negative way. I think that my studio mate overhears me constantly being like, oh, fuck this, like fuck me. Like I'm always messing up and just saying that under my breath and really loud sometimes too.
All right. What is your least favorite thing to do?
Clean. Easy. Clean and I don't know there's not I do so many different processes in my practice and all of them create a mess. Like there's not one that doesn't involve a mess, whether it's like plaster or foam or resin. I don't know. I'm making all I do is like make messes and then clean them up and then make a new mess and clean it up. Yeah.
What is your most favorite thing to do? Now, this is in life. This is not just with work.
Not just very okay, still cleaning for at least favorite thing to do. Still cleaning. My most favorite thing to do in life. Um, I mean, yeah, if not art, I think like being in water, like swimming or taking a bath. I don't know. I'm just a water baby. I love anything that's like
Okay.
floating. In art, I like being the sculpting moments, the moments where you're like building up mass or taking away mass and like really creating the
Okay.
form. And there's a lot of shit that happens before that and after that. And those
All right.
things, take it or leave it. But my favorite part is the sculpting aspect.
Okay. What is the one thing you would change about your significant other or spouse?
Um, well, I don't know. I'm pretty single right now.
That's
Life
fine.
is nothing.
That's fine. The guy this morning said the same thing. He's like, it's me and my dog.
Yeah. Well, I have a studio mate who I also live with, and we call each other like our like she's my platonic wife. What's the one thing I would change about her? I gotta say nothing. I love her. So nothing
Does
I
she
love.
like to clean?
I mean, yeah, no, I mean, like we both are pretty like similar on that standpoint. She's definitely more organized than I am, for sure, for sure.
Uh, okay, what makes you tick?
What makes me tick? It's a really good question. What makes me tick? I think like aesthetically or just in general.
In general.
In general, what makes me tick? I guess I would say like boredom. Like
Okay.
like when I get bored, like I can't stand that feeling, whether it's in art or life, like that feeling of being like, like this is kind of dull, like makes me snap and want to really do something.
Okay. All right. What irks you the most?
What hurts me the most? Um, what hurts me the most? I think feeling disappointed in myself.
No, irks
Like,
you the most. That feeling. Feel,
feeling disappointed in
okay.
myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
What?
like when I feel like I fucked up,
Got
whether
it.
it's in life or in art, being like, like that feeling of I messed up, that always, yeah, I'm mad at myself far more than I'm mad at anyone else.
What sound makes you happiest?
Sounds,
Yes.
wet sounds.
Oh, wow.
So in college, I did ceramics, and I don't really get to work with clay so much anymore, but like, I don't know if you ever work with clay, but like slip, like the wet, juicy clay, like the, like,
There's a juicy again.
yeah, it all goes back to juicy. Yeah.
What sound bothers you?
The opposite, dry sounds. Like when like the pencil or charcoal hits a surface the wrong way, like that like screech, that super, super dry sound is like I can't deal with that. It makes my whole body crack.
What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
What profession other than your own would you try?
I think, and hear me out here, like a witch doctor. Like making up lotions and potions, being in the woods, having a kind of an alternative apothecary. Yeah, just like foraging things and making potions to like slather all over my face, something like that.
All right, cool. What would you like on your tombstone?
Ooh, I've never thought that before. What would I like on my tombstone? She lived. She lived,
All right, cool. All right, so we have the questions out of the way. The conversation begins with after high school or during high school, if it applies, all of the different things you did that helped mold and direct you to where you are now.
Um, So first and foremost, like I've been into art forever, and my parents were super supportive of that. And I consider myself super lucky. I have a lot of friends whose parents weren't very supportive of their, choice to go into the aesthetic field or craft field. So I was always like taking art classes and taking kind of extracurriculars. I would say like my first thing I really fell in love with was ceramics, and that's because I took a wheel throwing course when I was 12, like an after school thing.
And this was
And
at 12?
yeah.
Wow.
So I learned how to wheel throw then. I'm not very good at it, by the way, but I can do it. But that was sort of like the first thing that got my mind really into 3D, because before that I had just drawn, and I just continued on with loving to make things. So I went to Mass College of Art and Design in Boston,
High
for
school to college?
college. So I went to an art school like right
Okay.
after. So
All right, so
um,
right after high school, you went to art school in Boston.
yes, yes. So and that was just like crash course on everything. I mean, not everything. I have some critiques for my education, but it was pretty good. It was, just exposed me to so many mediums and so many ways of thinking.
Okay,
And
so let's back up for a second. You say you have so many critiques on your education. What are they?
I don't think there's a person that went to art school that doesn't say their art school gave them shit for business advice.
Yeah, I think that's even in business school.
Yeah.
The business part, you kind of have to get by doing.
Exactly. And I mean, and there's something to that too. Like I think a lot of just real world experience that, can't be taught, but you can try a little bit, right? You can try and teach us a little bit. And that's the thing is like artists, craftspeople, or musicians, whatever, going into any form of creativity, when, we can see super famous people and they have these teams, but when we're all starting out, which I am, you're your own marketing person, you're your own business person, you're your own like bookkeeping person. You're like the making portion is like one piece of your puzzle. And yeah, so and that's what you get in art school is you learn how to make and you learn how to, learn craft and critical conceptual thinking, and like the rest of it, like a little bit, but not so much.
All right. Okay. So once we get to the where you are now, we'll get back and talk more about that, because we all deal with the same thing.
Yeah. And just read that someone, I think art schools have more responsibility, but yeah. So yeah, I went to Mass Art. I tried a bunch of mediums. I tried a bunch of different things. I did film video for a hot second. I kind of thought I wanted to maybe have a more like traditional career, something like that. And, I circled back to clay. I love sculpting. Yeah, it's ironic now because I don't really touch clay so much anymore. And that's just because I don't have a kiln. I wound up going back to 3D, and I just love that, and working around other sculptors and potters and people, making functional and sculptural ware, and also, getting experience with other mediums. So yeah, you're a woodworker. Like I never, ever, ever wanted to touch wood. I was afraid of power tools. I hated wood shops. Like I didn't even know wood shops, but I hated the idea of them. I didn't like walking in. I didn't like, it freaked me out. I was like, my fingers are so precious to me. Like I don't want to touch this shit. But it was a mandatory class for all 3D majors. So I wound up taking it, totally fell in love with it, totally changed my perspective. So yeah, it was stuff like that school gave me was, the ability to go in other studios, work in other studios. Now
how long have you been out of school?
I graduated 2016, so I guess it's been 4 years. Yeah.
All right.
Or ish. I graduated December of 2016, so yeah, 3.5 years.
All right.
Yeah.
So in that 3.5 years, you left school, and then what? You got a studio, you started working, you started looking for work?
Yeah. Right off the bat, I did some really small residencies, like not ones anyone would have heard of, not anything impressive, but I really enjoyed them. Just to kind of see the world. I hadn't traveled as much as I would have liked to at that time, so kind of got that out of my system.
Okay,
and
so let's talk about those. Where'd you go? What'd you do?
I went to, they were both kind of similar in terms of location, in terms of being random as fuck. I went to a small fishing village in Iceland on like the north coast. It was like a village of 200 people, and there was an artist residency there, and this big like reclaimed fish freezer. And there were like 14 of us, all from different places in the world. I was actually the only American, and all different mediums. So that was really great. And then after that, I went to another.
Okay, wait, hold on 1 second. What was that like?
That was wild, honestly. That was amazing. So I was there in January. So there were 4 hours of daylight, which, like, why did I do it? I don't know. I was feeling it. I was feeling it when I found it on the internet. I was like, I'll throw an application this way, and I got it. So the light alone was really amazing. You get these 4 hours of light a day, but it's the most amazing light you've ever seen because it's just this long, long sunrise and this long, long sunset. Like the clouds are lit up the entire 4 hours, but that's all you get.
So the sun goes up and then the sun goes down.
Mhm. Yeah, like kind of like this along the horizon. Like it's never up in the sky. It's just like above the ocean, like um, so that was an experience. And that was really cool seeing. I was I think I was the youngest artist there at the time, definitely the least experienced and least professional. And it was inspiring and very yeah, like I just learned a lot from the other artists there
How long
and
were you there?
and stuff. I was only there 1 month.
1 month. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then
The next one was a tiny village off the coast of Finland in the archipelago. It was also really cold and dark. And that one, I didn't have such a great time at, but it was very introspective. I'll say that. It was just me and one other girl. There was like almost no one else on this island. We didn't care for each other that much. Not like, not like nothing, no drama. Just like we weren't each other's people, and it was
there was no chemistry.
no chemistry. It was, oh God, yeah, that was an odd time. And during that, I think I just wrote a lot and thought a lot about like what kind of art I wanted to make. It was kind of one of those times where you're not making so much as you're thinking about making, which I don't really enjoy doing, to be honest.
So at this time, you weren't certain on what you were doing. You were still feeling your way out.
Definitely still feeling my way out. Aesthetically, I was making very like brutalist work. It was pretty minimal. You know, I wouldn't say like hard minimalism, but I definitely was very into minimalism at the time. You know, something that hasn't changed from my work then till now is I was very, very interested in like materiality and texture and, you know, just I don't know how to say it, like the symbolic essence of a material and sort of how that's conveyed no matter what you make, no matter what it's looking at, or what you're looking at. So I was doing stuff with porcelain, I was doing stuff with wood, I was very interested in color and surface, but you know, physically and like image wise, the work was completely different. It was very like a lot of circles and squares.
So how long was that?
That was that whole phase.
No, the next.
Oh, that was also a month. That was also a month.
It was also a month. All right.
Yeah.
And after that month, then what?
So then I went home to Boston and I was able to get this amazing studio. Actually, the studio that I'm in now. I acquired super randomly, super, super lucky to have it. It's in the basement of, I don't know if you've ever been to Boston, probably, I think New York, yeah. In Back Bay, there are all these brownstones, and one of them is a gallery that owns the building because it's been there forever. And I used to intern at the gallery in college. It's very different work. It's not a contemporary gallery. It's sort of like a continuing on sort of impressionist landscape gallery. Amazing work, but different. And my coworker, I was an intern, he was assistant director. He transformed the basement of this building into a studio. He was a painter. And he was kind of like working for the space, if you will. He wasn't paying rent. He was working more hours at the gallery. And it's a pretty big space. So he had room for extra studio mates and we were really close. And he was like, do you want to come in here and work with me? And so I was like, absolutely. So then I came in and worked in this space and just started kind of like pounding the pavement and trying to make a ton of work. And I was still pretty, not gonna say like lost aesthetically, but like it wasn't where I am now. I was still experimenting. I was still experimenting a lot. And then I applied for this internship That's actually in Bali, Indonesia, at this like really world-renowned clay studio there, ceramic studio there, which was a production factory that then had like an art center associated with it that would have all these amazing visiting artists, community center, blah, blah, blah. And I wound up getting that. So then I left Boston and went there for 6 months. That was 6 months.
Wow.
And was
Okay, so did you still keep your studio, or
so
you?
he was his studio. So I left the studio. He was still working there, and he had other people come in and took my space. Um, and then once I got back from there, it was super serendipitous.
Okay,
His
hold it. Wait a second. You can't go to Bali and not tell us about it.
yeah, so I went to Bali. It was an incredible learning experience. You know, one, it was a completely different culture, like completely different culture. And I'd never been in an expat community before. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was just really interesting. I mean, there weren't many Americans. There was a lot of Australians, and a few Europeans. And, you know, it's sort of siphoned off in Bali, right? Like there's kind of three groups. There's like local natives who, you know, you kind of socialize with, but there's such a language and cultural barrier that there isn't too much crossing. And then there's expats, which are, you know, like English speakers that live there. And then there's tourists. And none of the groups really fuck with each other too much. So, you know, you get very quickly inserted into the expat group, and you know, it's like middle school in the sense of there's so few of us. Everyone knows each other. It's like, oh, you're new here, like da da da. It's like, and you're working at Gaia. That was the name of the studio. It was like, oh yeah, like I know the da 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 blah, blah. And it was just very interesting. Like I guess I knew expat communities existed, but I never even bothered to think how one functioned or what that would be like. And that was a really interesting experience. And then the studio was really incredible. There were definitely some parts of it that I didn't love, but mainly it was a really great learning experience. I was sort of like the studio bitch, and then I was also teaching. It was sort of like back and forth, you know, like keeping everything clean, like just cleaning a ton, organizing a lot, organizing student work a lot. And then I was teaching, people would sign up for private lessons, and once a week there was like a drop-in open wheel throwing class, so I would teach that.
Okay.
So that was that.
What did you get out of being there, other than just being the person who cleans up and takes care of stuff and organizes? What
Did I get out of being there? So they would have, so that what I described as sort of my role, I would say like 2/3 of the time I was there. And then in 2-week increments, kind of broken up out of my time there was visiting artist workshops, which were really cool. And in those times, I mean, same role, like, you know, cleaning, assisting, everything. But there were some really amazing, really well-renowned ceramicists, potters and sculptors that came through, and all these people that signed up to learn with them. And during those times, I would function as that, you know, that teacher's assistant. And that, like, I just got so much out of every person's so different. And I think anytime you're watching someone who's like super masterful and advanced in their career, like just make things and talk about their journey there, you get so much out of it. So I would say like those were the times that I got most out of it. And then there's little things that you get out of it. I think every time you just are in another studio, you know, like you see how they package their clay, you see how they store things, you see how they clean things, you know, just like I think in every studio, whether it's a big studio or just one person studio, there's like little methods to their madness with all the little things like the minutia, and just being so involved and so present and sort of like on staff in one of those places, you learn a lot, of just those little things you kind of like put in the back of your head for like, okay, when I get back to my studio, maybe I'd run things a little, you know, differently. I'd store things in a different place. My process would be a little different.
Okay. All right. So this ends in 6 months. you go back to Boston to your studio?
Yeah, I go back to Boston. And so that was about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago.
Okay, let me interrupt you 1 second. Is this the part where you spoke about your parents being supportive? Did they help you through these process?
Yeah, they were very helpful through this process. I also had a partner at the time that was very helpful through this process. That I would say is like my main sources of support. And yeah, we're not together anymore, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without him, 100%. So that was definitely. I mean, I think there's very few artists that are able to make without some person kind of helping them out along the way. And so he was that person for me. Um, so I returned to Boston, and the studio that I'm in now is the same studio I was in before. And the guy that created it, his name's Daniel, he's an amazing, amazing painter. He had fallen in love with this girl who was actually in Boston on a residency, and she was moving to Florida for another art opportunity. She was also an artist, and he was like, I'm moving with her. And he's like, do you want the studio? You've had it before. I have a great relationship with the gallery above because I used to work there. And I was like, fuck yes, I want the studio. Like, I want the studio. And at the same time, my current studio mate, her name's Masha, she's an amazing painter, was also looking for a studio. She had another studio in Boston and then didn't have it anymore. And I mean, studio space is just fucking hard to come by, like affordable studio space. So
affordable, right.
Yeah. So she was looking for one too. And when he came to me being like, do you want this? I was like, yes. And then, it's a pretty big space. Like I knew two of us working here well. So I was like, do you want to come in here? So this was, like a little under 2 years ago, which I can't believe time flies like that. But yeah, a little under 2 years ago, I came back to Boston, back to the studio. I get it for dirt cheap, which is, what makes it possible.
It's key. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a basement. There are no windows, but like, I'm not complaining.
Right. You let it work.
Yeah. Totally. It'll work. Concrete floors. I can get them as dirty as I need. Yeah. So then I came back here, and that was sort of the beginning of this body I'm making. And I don't want to say taking myself seriously as an artist, because, I think I have been for a while. Like I went to school for it, but really like understanding what it takes to try and make it in this world.
Yes,
like,
it's another level of seriousness.
Yeah, and I think that started with when I moved back. Like all that stuff I did before was sort of, I don't know how to say it. Like it was very experimental, and it was very much learning experience. And yeah, I believe as an artist and a maker, you can't really like flit around doing all these different things, like you kind of have to stay put in a studio every day, grinding, consistency, getting to know your community, doing this and that. So yeah, when I came back from that, I recognized that from all the traveling and all the shit that, to make anything work, I was going to have to stay put.
Still.
Yeah. So
I had a similar situation. When we first started, we started and then we expanded. When we expanded, we would do the Brooklyn Flea Market. Now, the Brooklyn Flea Market is different. It's far from Westchester. It's in the 5 boroughs. Westchester's outside the 5 boroughs.
Right.
So
Are you in Westchester?
I'm sorry?
Are you in Westchester now? Is that where you're? Okay.
Yep,
cool.
in Westchester. So we're in Westchester, but going to Brooklyn every weekend. So Brooklyn became a large source of our clientele. But the whole time I'm like, wait a minute. We're probably in the richest county in the entire country. Why are we running to Brooklyn to do business? We need to shift and do business in Westchester, where people have all of these big houses and can have big tables and bigger furniture, as opposed to trying to make smaller things to go in to Brooklyn apartments. So then we like you said, we got settled here and started a push to get more noticeable in Westchester, and it worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah, get the bigger fish, right? Like if it's there, hit them up, you
Exactly
know?
right. Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna work for something, work for something that has a bigger reward.
Yeah.
And again, we're in the community, which makes it a lot better.
Yeah.
So
I think there's definitely something to staying put, you know, and like making yourself known in a certain circle and consistency.
yeah, you have to, and you have to have the permanent mentality. Even if you're there temporarily, you can't think like that because there's a difference between you getting settled and knowing that you're going to be there, and being somewhere thinking that you're going to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
It won't allow you to get your roots going. So that's good. So now you working on the community, and how's that going?
Well, I mean, there's nothing now in terms of art and whatever, but
Before.
yeah, I mean, moving back to Boston, I mean, I knew a lot of people before. I also grew up kind of in the suburbs. And Mass Art there's two art schools in Boston. There's the SMFA School of the Museum of Fine Arts and Mass Art, and they're both right next to each other. And I would say like the vast majority of the people in the Boston art scene, which is very small, by the way, most of them are Mass Art grads, either, you know, from a while ago or recent. So it's a pretty small circle where you just kind of, you know, people from being around, you know, people from going to the school. So I mean, it's not too difficult to work. Like go to events, introduce yourself, see shows, you know, just try and show up and get to know people. So I think that's what, you know, I tried to do and to plan things and, you know, just get ins wherever I could, and just post a lot on Instagram.
When did you and your shopmate become room? You say she's your roommate, right?
Yeah, I think she's watching this right now. I don't know. Hi, Masha.
When did you all become roommates?
We were studio mates first, and we were both getting out of relationships, and I was moving out, and I needed a roommate. Yeah, hi, Mosh. And yeah, I needed a roommate, so that was her. And then we got a random person from Craigslist, and you know, that worked out how it works out. But we're great.
Thanks, Marge. You said a random person, so you found your apartment on Craigslist?
No, we found that.
Instead of. Got
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's us and someone else, but in the studio it's just us.
Okay, all right. And you all work together and live together. What is that like? I kind of know, but what is that like?
I think actually we get asked this constantly. We really care for each other. We really get along. We also both do our own thing. Like we don't see each other 24/7. You know, we do other things in other spaces. But yeah, I mean, it's a ball. Sometimes I'm down and she's up. Sometimes she's down and I'm up, and we just try and like keep an equilibrium and you know, are like cheerleaders for each other. And yeah, we laugh a lot, we cry a lot, we have a good time.
All right, cool. All right, so let's get into the work part.
Yeah.
So you now decided what you want to do, and you're doing it. And what are the materials that you're working with for your sculptures?
So I feel like I have two or three like avenues, but most of them, the ones like the figures, are the same process. So you know, spray insulation foam, great stuff,
Yep.
big stuff, remember that? Yeah, the yellow. So I'll build like a kind of an armature off of barbecue skewers, like the tiny wooden sticks. And I'll spray foam and through, I forget if it's like chicken or egg. At this point, when I do the spray foam, I shape it down to a form, and I have so much extra chunks of spray foam, like just like packing peanuts, but some of them are huge pieces. So when I start a piece, I'll like barbecue stew together a bunch of like my extra pieces. And then I'll like big foam these together like, and then I'll take like a drywall knife once that's set and shave it down into generally the form I want. So like when I'm done with the spray foam period, they look kind of like Giacometti girls or something, like super, super skinny. Because I know I'm gonna bulk them up with plaster. But they're kind of, they look like the female form, but they're really like skinny and rough. And then I'll plaster them. And
Okay, all right. So let's go back to the first layer.
yeah.
Is 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 it you?
Are the figures me?
Yes.
Ah, kind of. They're all kind of me. Like I like to say no, but the truth is kind of yes. I mean, they're not self-portraits, right? Like they're not direct self-portraits. Like this is my self-portrait.
Inspirations.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I've gotten that comment a lot. Like they all kind of look like they could be related to you. I'm like, I know, like I know. And I think that comes from a place just of every figure sculptor. I've like looked this up to make sure I'm not totally crazy. Almost every figure sculptor, most of their work, and not all of them, and not all of their work, but most of them and most of their work, they all look related. And it usually is the artist themselves or probably someone really close to them in their life. And I think that's because when we're getting kind of stuck with like making a face or a body and being like, how is that? Like you'll just look in the mirror and be like, okay, that's how a cheekbone is. And you'll like throw it on there. And so like push comes to shove, they all kind of look like you.
Because I'm looking at them, right, and I'm like, what my interpretation is that I'm gonna give you my honest my
Let's
honest
hear it. I got thick skin.
what I see. What I see is that it looks like you're happy with your body, but there's something else that's troubling you.
Okay. I'll take that. I've heard a lot of things to get
Yes,
like
and I'm sure you've heard so much about how people interpret what there is, and it seems to me like the colors are moods. The different
yeah.
colors are different. It seems
So
like it seemed like it's you, but you were in a different mood when you did it,
yeah.
and that's
Yeah, I like to think of color, like especially the very monochromatic ones, which most of them are, as sort of colors like a subject matter in and of itself, you know? It's like you have the piece, you have what it's there, and then color is almost like, like another figure. It's like another, you know what I mean?
another
Like
layer.
another layer. Yeah. So I think sometimes when people do color, they're just going for making it look lifelike. You know what I mean? They're just using color to further the representation. But then artists that kind of work a little like teetering into abstraction, I think color then becomes another subject within the piece and that it really can convey emotion. Yeah, really well. So
Okay.
that's what I like to use it with.
So we have the spray foam, the plaster.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I love plaster. It's funny. I used to hate plaster when I was working in clay. The only thing I ever used plaster for was mold making. And I just hated everything about it. I hated like the way it felt. Like I just hated it. And the world's so ironic like that because I use and mix more plaster than I ever thought I would. And I mean, it's constant. But so I love plaster. I'm sure you've mixed a lot of plaster, but for anyone who's watching who doesn't, it sort of goes through these phases right after you mix it. It's like melt, and then it's sort of like heavy cream, and then it has like what I consider the sweet spot, which is when it's like icing. It's like if you stuck your hand into just like a barrel of icing, where it has mass to it and it sticks, and then shortly after that, it like gets crumbly and sets and it's unusable. So I generally I work with it in like its icing phase. And so I wear gloves, but I'll just take like a handful of it out of the bucket and just like start slabbing it onto the spray foam like armature. and just first get it all good and covered so there's no more spray foam and I know it's good and sealed and it's got a nice shell. And then I will, add more and more on and create the figure through that. And I try to be way more additive than I am subtractive. I don't like chiseling into the plaster. I find it to be annoying and kind of cumbersome, but I mean, I fuck up when I put the plaster on sometimes, so I wind up chiseling quite a bit. But I try and be intentional when I put it on, and I try and get it right the first time in. So it just will go in layers and layers and layers and layers because plaster has this like little 15-minute window, not even like 10-minute window. So I'm kind of, it's like I feel like I'm sculpting with clay, like I'm sculpting with mud within this 10-minute window, just slap, 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 slap. While it's still kind of wet and setting, I'll chisel a bit off if I see something that's like not right that I did. And then I'll just mix another batch, mix another batch, mix another batch until it's done.
Each figure requires approximately how much plaster?
Maybe 2 bags, like 2 standard Home Depot bags. I don't know what volume those are, but you know what I mean, the standard.
Maybe, I think maybe 50 pounds.
Yeah. Well, they're not 50-pound bags, but they're like, it's like if you got sand, it would be 50 pounds, like that size bag, that thing, like that, I don't know, like what is it? I'm trying to like look at the bags now, like 2 feet bags from Home Depot, like the 2 feet by 1.5 kind of rectangle bags from Home Depot. Probably 2 of those. I mean, on
Signal. Your screen's frozen.
okay,
Yep, gotcha. So you were talking about the plaster in the Home Depot bags.
Yeah, yeah. So probably about 2 of those, maybe less. I don't know. I'm trying as I develop my process. Like my goal is always to use less plaster because it's less heavy. So I'm trying to get better, and that's something that's just coming from experience. I can feel myself getting better at it piece by piece, of just trying to be, smarter when I make the armature, like very aware of. I mean, I think it applies so much to every art making process. It's like, have a plan. It goes better if you have a plan. You know what I mean? It goes better if you have a sketch. It goes better if you try and get your ducks in a row and have a clear vision. I'm finding that when I do that, which I'm more successful on with some pieces, less than others, and as I move on, I'm getting better at it. Then I can articulate what I want more.
You also control cost and waste when you do it that way.
Exactly. I hate wasting plaster. I hate it being too heavy. And yeah, I just try to keep the plaster to a minimum, so I can also just I'm not a big person, I need to carry these things around my studio all the time, and the really heavy ones I struggle with it. I get under there and carry it like a whole child, and I'm just oh, the whole time, and then it gets finished and I have to wrap it and move it, and so less plaster the better.
So after the plaster, then what's the next layer?
I'll sand down parts of the plaster. I really enjoy the juxtaposition of surfaces. So my natural inclination is always to make stuff super raw and rugged and juicy. And then, I'll sure form down some areas and then sand it to try and get some super, super smooth areas that are glossy. Once I do that, it's time for color and surface, and I will spray paint the entire thing. Usually one flat color, but I actually just made a piece today where I had to do the color, and I used 2 different colors of spray paint to try and get a little interest in there. And then I will do a bunch of coats of resin over that.
Okay, 2-part resin?
Yeah, 2-part resin. I forget what kind it is. It's just one I get from Reynolds. It's the kind that you don't really have to use a respirator with with, which is why I use it. And I have some stuff that's super fast set and some stuff that's medium set. So I'll just kind of decide which one I want to use depending on how quick I think I'll be able to work with it for the pot life.
All right, cool. So can we get a little tour and we open up the questions?
Oh, sure. Okay. So this is my table. I'll turn it around. Let's see.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Do you name your sculptures?
I do, but not while I'm working on them, and I don't give them people names, except for one is off someone I was seeing. So this table looks super. This is my main work table. I just finished a bunch with resin, so they're all hanging out there. I really work in a basement. Like, this is the ceilings. Like, it's very basement-y. This is another work table. This is a piece. This is a good process example. So this is a piece that I just spray painted. So it has like no resin on it. It's like very flat. This is a piece that I have started the resin on. So you can like kind of see it building up, and it gets, again, messy. Like, that is just sticky, like shit that I'm going to have to Dremel off, which I also hate doing. I hate dremeling resin, but I do. I have a wall that I do. I have a big wall piece that I just did,
Nice.
which is also covered in resin. That's one of the figures. We have a little couch sitting area over here. A little bit of storage around that corner, more figures. I have some shelves with some busts on them, and I cover them in plastic just because plaster dust gets fucking everywhere. And then this entire shower curtain is my studio mate's side, and she put this up because of my plaster dust as well. I don't think she'll mind if I show a peek in. And this is her side, which is very painted. And she's an amazing, amazing painter at Masha Carry-On.
Very nice.
Yeah, wait. We have sort of like a little upstairs area. Yeah, and then this is our basement. Bookshelf, art books.
Okay, so okay, the piece we're looking at straight ahead.
Oh, wait, I just turned it around. Okay, I'll go back. Which one? This one or this one?
That one.
That one, yeah.
How tall is that?
A little taller than me. So I would say like 5'4", something like that.
How much does it weigh?
I have no clue, but a lot. A lot. I wish it weighed a lot less than it did.
Does it weigh more than you?
Oh, yeah. I can't move it on my own. I can't move it on my own at all. You need two people to move it.
Can we get a little closer?
Yeah. So you can see the resin. It's got juicy surface. Yeah, Masha just commented it's heavy as fuck. It is. She moved it on her own once, actually.
Pretty cool. Okay, so give me a range. What would something like this cost?
A full figure one. I mean, okay, so there's like, I feel like an official answer and then an unofficial answer. So an official answer is if I was selling it through a gallery, and getting half, I think I would like to be in the slightly under 10,000 range, like in there, 8 or so, 6 to 8, 6 to 9, something like that. If the unofficial answer is full figure sculptures before you're somebody, like while you're still emerging, are so hard to sell and so hard to place that, if someone was seriously interested and wanted to take it like the fuck out of my studio and have it in their home and like love it and live with it, I would be a lot more lenient on price. So
right. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do you go from here? After COVID and things open up, what do you see? What do you see you doing? What do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself? I mean, right after COVID or in, the foreseeable future, doing the same thing, like trying to make as much good quality work as I can. I love seeing art. I love networking, trying to get it, a good show together. Mosh and I were really excited to try to put on our own 2-person show in like a pop-up space before all this started. And we were like looking into spaces and stuff. thank God we didn't get one and put a deposit on it because COVID happened like that, and we were planning on it for the spring. So, yeah, I mean, trying to probably make moves on that again. But I mean, COVID, it's kind of freaky because I don't really see it ending anytime soon. Things are opening back up, but in terms of gallery shows, like, when are we going to have openings again? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know when
Right.
people are going to be really putting on shows and interacting with each other. So I don't know. I mean, long term, I just want to, make bigger, make more, have a bigger studio, bigger sales, like just everything, the whole contemporary art world dream.
All right, cool. Is there something that you currently want to do but are not able to?
So many things. Oh my God, yes. I think I mean, big dream. Like the first thing that comes to mind is just metal casting, right? Like I would love to be able to make something and get it. I don't even mean like bronze in the color, but yeah, get it in metal, whether it's steel or something, and be able to make works that could be put outside, public art, anything like that. But I mean, that's just a material cost that is way out of my current situation, but
Right.
you never know for the future. So
Who,
that's something.
what artists do you admire and inspire you?
Oh, so many. Rebecca Warren, she's an amazing figure sculptor that also makes very raw female figurative work. David Altschmed, I don't know if I ever pronounce his name right, but Altdjed or something like that is like a freaky sculptor, like otherworldly shit, really, really amazing. Matt Weedle is someone I look at constantly. He's a ceramic artist in kind of like in Ohio. And he's also someone I look to just in terms of he makes massive work, like gorgeous, massive work, and doesn't live in a city and doesn't live in a high cost area and has like a big studio with big kilns. And I'm kind of like shifting my mind towards that, not being like, all right, well, what could I do? And I guess that goes back to your previous question too. Like, what could I do that I can't now? And I think it would be scale, like scale and numbers. And that would just go with like space and material.
But
Uh,
yeah, I'm currently like the same thing. Like I have a yard that's pretty big, but to do things the way that I want to do, the next level would be to have another piece of property that's like 80 to 100 miles away, 20 to
mhm.
30 acres, and just fill it with wood. So if an order comes in and it's 1,000 tables, it's 500 tables, I can do it with no sweat.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like we're so constrained by the spaces we work in, we make objects. It's not like musicians or something where you're making something that winds up being on a thing, we're confined by the amount of space we have, so we can only make so much stuff that takes up that space, and then there's like the
Yeah,
flow getting out.
and I think
So,
that it also affects your creativity.
yeah.
I think when you are in a smaller space, it kind of allows you to think about what you can make in that space because you're not trying to think about something that wouldn't fit in that space because it doesn't fit. So that's what you're confined to.
Yeah, you think smaller when you're in a smaller space. You have to. So
Yes, it is. It's necessary.
it's necessary. It's a
Yeah,
sad reality, but I don't know.
yeah,
But also you make do, I'm super grateful for the things that I have. But yeah, things I could
yeah,
do that
yeah.
I can do now would be
Yeah,
bigger too.
you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So yes, so also confirmed by the size of the door.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Your
Yeah.
stuff can't be made in two pieces.
No, no. We're actually lucky we have this, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. That door back there, it's like a loader door that like leads out into an alleyway.
Okay.
Um, because also my studio mate makes really big paintings, like super wide, and I don't think they fit through a normal door. So We have great doors. Very, very good. You are very confined by your door space as well.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think is there anything you want to add in closing? I think we've done well and covered the spectrum.
I think we did. It was a great conversation. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We wish you well. You have beautiful art, great
Thank
work, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. I'm gonna definitely watch all your other conversations. I've had a fun time going through them.
Cool. All right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
very much and good luck to you.
Thank you. Mwah.
All right. Good night.